Welcome to Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're kicking off our series interviewing NFL Academy players and coaches. We're joined for the first one by Enrique Aspinall, a cornerback who can also play some running back and wide receiver, who's up at the NFL Academy in Loughborough. Enrique started his Britball journey with the South London Renegades team, famously where F.A. Abada, Washington Commanders player, kick-started his career. So we're going to sit down and talk with Enrique about his journey, how he got into American football to start with, what life's like at the NFL Academy, and what's to come for Enrique in the future. So here is our guest for this episode, Enrique Aspinall. Enrique, thanks ever so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, first of all?
I'm good, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, all good. We're about to hit the start of a busy period, or one of the bits of the busy period for the NFL off season. But we're real excited to kind of sit down and chat with yourself as part of the NFL Academy and really bring to life what it's all about in terms of that setup in Loughborough and what we've got and what you've got going on there as well. I suppose for us, Enrique, let's help us get to know you a little bit first. Obviously, so you are a player up at the NFL Academy. I've seen some of the clips as well, so I've seen you play cornerback. I've seen you play slot wide receiver as well. Where's your main position, or are you kind of like that Deion Sanders or Travis Hunter now that we're seeing who's going to play both ways?
My main position is definitely corner, but I'm more than happy to play some offense, even some special teams. I love both sides of the ball.
Nice. It's good. If you've got the skill set to do it all, why not? And the more you can do, the more valuable you are. And I suppose that understanding kind of where your journey began then for that. So, how did you first become interested in American football? What is it that got you kind of piqued your interest to think, oh, I want to go give it a try?
To be honest, it was in secondary school. We played flag football. I had it in my secondary school since I was in year seven, but I only got interested in it like towards the end of year 11. It was jag tag. Yeah, they brought it after school sessions. They said, yeah, come down, just play around, have some games. And yeah, I think for me, it was once I got the ball in my hands and I was able to just run about, have fun like a kid. And then, yeah, that's what got me hooked.
Nice. Jack Taubes are doing such great work in London, having the games for such a long period of time, and been that consistent presence in London to kind of have that outreach in the community is cool. What was kind of your sporting background then around that? Obviously, so you've had that in school. What were other sports that you played then um, before
Uh, in,
playing NFL?
in secondary school, I just played anything I could. I just loved sports. After year 11, I got really into track and field, so I would sprint. So yeah, I went to a sports college and started sprinting there.
Nice. I seen on your Twitter profile and page, or X, I should call it, the everything app as it is. Route 4-4
hmm
sprinter, so obviously that's a huge advantage. And is that sort of the piece then where you're getting matched up with these wide receivers? That's where you've got the edge on them.
Yeah, 100%. But it's a bit different. Like as a DB, you're going backwards, they're going forward, so you got to match their pace or be faster than them to break on the ball.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to go 4-4 backwards, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true.
Good stuff. You remember, obviously, and one of the teams you play for is the South London Renegades, and that's where F.A. Abada, the Commanders player, came
Yeah,
from.
South. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's where he first started. That's where he first
yeah.
started.
How is that then? Because you've seen, I guess you've seen someone from the team has made that journey from the South London Renegades all the way to the NFL. Obviously, there's many stops along the way. Your first stop, I guess, is the NFL Academy. How did that go then from getting to playing with the South London Renegades and playing Brit ball? How was that leap then to happen to go to the NFL Academy?
It was it was quite a big leap, honestly. It's really inspiring though seeing someone like FA who played in the same position I was for the same team and is now on that big stage in America playing all the time. So it was definitely a big leap for me, especially going from Britball, Baffa to the NFL Academy, where we're playing top 50 teams in the US and we're facing them. We're just facing anybody we can, And yeah, like the talent level in America is just it's hard to believe, but then again, everyone from Europe and everyone in Britball can compete with that level. But it's just about getting that coaching and being able to like rise to the challenge.
Yeah. And are you seeing that change and that progression happen not only in your own game, but in kind of the guys that are around you as well, in terms of with the advent of the NFL Academy, kind of the level just kind of ever increasing?
Yeah, definitely. I think with this, with the NFL Academy where it's been introduced, everyone wants to train to get better. So everyone's trying to find their little pathways to get better for them to be on that next level stage, whether it be the NFL Academy or different pathways to get to where they want to be.
Yeah, and I suppose a bit of a difference and step up, as you mentioned. I suppose help us just kind of lay out. So the NFL Academy is up in Loughborough, so that's a huge hub for sports and sports development in the UK. What's it like? What's life like then at the NFL Academy?
Life is definitely busy, busy, really busy. It's like the best I can describe it's like a college routine. Waking up waking up at 6, and then going to the gym at 6:30. After that, we have class at 9, from 9 till 12, and then after that, we'd have meetings before training at like 1. Then we have practice, and then we have film after just to review, and it's just the same thing for 5 days a week, continuous, continuous, continuous.
Yeah, and you mentioned that college kind of routine. We've seen some of the guys in the last couple of weeks go and sign for college teams in America. I think a couple of guys that went and signed on at Nicholls State, Joe Kirkby, and one of the other guys as well had signed on at the same school. How is that then for you to kind of see these guys going through the academy and then getting that opportunity to go and play um, college football in the US?
It gives a lot of hope. It gives us hope every day. It's like it's very hard to believe in yourself that I'm in the UK. I want a scholarship over in America, which is very far in itself. Some people doubt themselves, but when you see someone like your teammate doing it, just doing that process and getting recruited, getting offers and getting signed, it just gives you more hope that yeah, I can do the same thing. I can rise to the challenge and I'll be above it.
Nice. And how many have you been at the academy for a couple of years now?
No, I've just been to the academy this year.
This year,
I started in September 2024.
September. And how long's that journey then for you with the academy in terms of how long you're not expected because things can change, of course, but how long kind of that program is designed to be for?
It's meant to be for a year, not a year, but like there's new seasons every year. So start from July, you'd have a summer camp, then we move on to the games, and then we have a speed works, and then into more summer, spring ball.
Goes right into spring ball, of course, and then all that's the cycle, of course, starts again. And with this kind of being able to be a part of the NFL Academy, so there's the games, and we see maybe more of the headlines come from the NFL Academy around the London games when they happen, the opportunity for the academy teams to play at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, usually. I suppose what other opportunities are you sort of taking advantage of them being part of the NFL Academy that you wouldn't have had if you were just continuing to play Brit ball?
Definitely the coaching, the networking, just any chance that you can get, you can just get at academy. Like it boosts that playing field that you're at. Even though it's nice being in Britball and it's like comfortable, being at the NFL Academy, it's just that step higher. Especially with our coaches like Coach Hagan, he has so many connections. He gives us so many core values that we have to follow. That it's just so much easier to get to America and be able to play on that field.
And you mentioned the coach, obviously, they're a huge part in what has made, or what he's not has, because it continues to be a great success, the NFL Academy. With that, what is it you're getting from these guys? Because these are, I suppose, this is another level in terms of again the coaching, and that's no disrespect to what's going on at Brit Ball, but that's just the levels through the game, isn't it? What are you getting, I suppose, from these guys and these coaches that are helping you in your development?
For me personally, I'm definitely getting more than the basics. It helps me have a natural feel to the game. it's like in the UK we're all known for like actually playing soccer, football, and like growing up. So you have that innate ability to play football over here. So like if someone passed you the ball and told you to kick it into the goal from outside the box, a free kick, you can just do that. For them, if you told them to run a route and catch the ball one-handed, they could probably do that. And it's something that you're able to pick up while playing the game and understanding it. And they're able to pass down those little details that someone who's not fully experienced in the game is able to just pick up. Like it's much easier, and it just allows you to just be a better football player and gain just the small things, the details that matter.
And where is it in your game? Do you think that you've pushed on? So, being in that academy since September, Enrique, what bits of your game do you think have really kind of taken that next step?
Definitely my awareness, my in-game intelligence, my ability to recognize plays and recognize what's going on, whether that be through watching film, studying, or something that's been taught to us, and my footwork, definitely my footwork.
Yeah, and key, as you mentioned kind of earlier on in playing that cornerback role, real important for sure. And I suppose the facilities then at Loughborough, again, well, renowned sports school, sports university. How was that then having access to all of those things, kind of versus into how you were training and practicing and being coached beforehand? What are those facilities like in comparison?
Um, the facilities are amazing here. Like it speaks for itself. It's Loughborough Uni. So it's definitely that level, that step up, especially with our strength and conditioning program. That's programmed for us specifically to get better, whether to be gaining weight, getting stronger, getting faster. It's just that elite level coaching and just getting better for us.
Good stuff. And I suppose it's what are the kind of next steps for you in terms of where you're sort of looking to go then the remainder of this year into next year? Kind of what's the path looking like for you, Enrique?
Right now, we're gonna do some combine stuff. We're gonna have our combine, and then after that, we're gonna have our spring bowl games. That's where we're gonna be playing multiple teams, and then it should be summer tour.
Summer tour, excellent, good stuff. And the combine piece, so we are all used to seeing the combine out in Indy, in Indianapolis, and a lot of fuss made about that. What's that like then here in terms of those activities for you guys then for kind of that academy combine piece?
It's just as competitive in my eyes. Like we try to keep it as just exactly how it is. So we're just preparing ourselves slowly and slowly for the next step. Like everything we do here at the academy, it prepares us and more for the next level.
Yeah, and that's a great piece to kind of just try and make that seamless and no different for what the guys and what you're obviously hoping to do and go to that next level and do that. Are we expecting, Enrique? Are you going to be delivering the fastest 40?
Definitely, definitely,
Nice.
no doubt.
Good stuff. Shoot your shot. I like it. Good stuff. And the summer tour then, that you mentioned there, what's that looking like in terms of how that's going to be in terms of the games, in terms of the training? How is that kind of differ from what you've done before?
What I've done before in terms of Brit Bowl,
Yeah, yeah.
it's definitely more intense because with Brit Bowl, you're doing the same scouts and you're watching the same film, but with the academy, we do it so much and in detail and looking at just the minuscule things. Like we're picking up on patterns, especially on defense. We have to pick up on those little patterns that they do. Like what do they use this player for? They use this specific player 15 to in screens. If he comes in the screen, he's going to get the ball. It's just those minor things that is really emphasized and is really important for us. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting to see that even at that point you're going into that level of detail, that we hear about. We've got so many behind the scenes sort of shows
Mhm.
now that show us kind of what happens in the NFL and getting to that detail. It's really cool to hear that kind of that's where you are operating now to get those
Mhm.
little advantages, those marginal wins, whatever it is, whatever tendency it is, it's cool to hear that that's operating at that level as well. I suppose one of the questions I wanted to ask is to really understand as well, like how was it that you became like cornerback's my main position while doing other things? Was there other positions that you tried before? How did you kind of get to the position to settle on corner's my main thing?
Um, in Brit Bowl and Buffer, I was mainly a running back and a slot guy, but I also played safety on defense. Like no matter what it was, I would always try to be on the field as much as I can. So if it's running back, if it's slot, if it's safety, if it's punt returner or kick returner, I'd always try to be on that field. And when I came to the academy, I knew I was going to come to play as multiple positions. I just came to be a utility player, someone who was able to pick up and do what a team needs. And even though I loved offense, I knew that I could definitely step up in defense much more just by using my talents and my speed and just everything else. So, and there's just something about defense that is just, it just has that little bit of an edge, in my opinion. It just has that bit of an edge.
Yeah, well, as the old saying goes, defense wins championships. So it's
It does.
such an important part of the game, of course. And that's interesting then to sort of see how you sort of bounced around from being able to do lots of different things and fill lots of different roles. Definitely, I think people who are multi-skilled and can do plenty of different jobs on the team, including special teams, definitely colleges and beyond love those kind of players, right? Because you can fill more, well, 5 or 6 roles by the sounds of it from what you're saying. And we've talked a little bit about the guys that have kind of gone on and started that journey in America. I think we've had other guys doing it. We've got the tight end Peter Clark that's in Temple in
Yeah,
Philly, just outside Philly, at the minute. What's kind of the aim for you? Is that something that you're kind of really pushing towards now to look to go into get a opportunity in America to play college ball?
100%. 100%. I believe that everyone's in the academy to get the opportunity to go to America and get that offer. So that's something definitely I'm chasing and that I work to every day to be able to go play on that field.
Good stuff. And you mentioned obviously so being from was it playing in South London? Are you from South London as well, Enrique? Excellent.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
already made the move from South London to Loughborough. How is it then? How is it being out of London and being in Loughborough, being away from home, kind of chasing this opportunity?
It's definitely like a new experience for me. I'm living away from home for so long, but it's every day getting up knowing that yeah, I got a goal I need to chase, and that goal is like very hard to get to. So but like the even the athletes, not just in the academy, but in Loughborough alone, just like set a high standard for everything. Like if you go to the gym, like no, like you're gonna have people messing about like here and there. But that's life. But like everyone's working hard. Like you can just tell the the aura in that room. It's like everyone wants to work hard. They're all working towards a goal, and everyone's there is like high level athletes in itself.
Yeah, it's a great environment, isn't it, to be around if you're chasing to ultimately, play American football at the next level, being surrounded by elite athletes day after day after day. Certainly a great place to be. Is there an element of competitiveness around kind of the different athlete groups in there? So maybe when you're in the gym and
No, 100%, 100%. I think in sports there's always that level of competitiveness, no matter what. Like even if you're outworking your teammate or you're trying to outwork another team, or it seems like, yeah, I'm lifting heavier weights than the NFL Academy guys. It's like it's always going to be a competition.
yeah, there's a reputation to uphold here, a brand to protect.
100%.
For the guys for sure. Um, Enrique, I suppose you mentioned as well. Obviously, you talked to me off air that you are a Baltimore Ravens fan.
Yes, I am.
Where did then that spark from? So, was that the same thing that sparked your interest in the sport as a fan, as well as trying to get into it? That sort of Jaguars connection from school, or would you have been interested in it before then?
In all honesty, like I always saw American football. Like, I always watched on the TV, and everyone's seen those videos where it's like biggest hits in the NFL
Yeah.
or whatever it is, and it's like it's very intriguing, and it's like, but I never, I couldn't understand the game through watching it like that until I had to sit down or like, I had to start playing it to understand it and understand the enjoyment from it. And yeah, I think it all started from those videos that are like the biggest hits, where it's Ray Lewis and all those guys there. It's just intriguing.
Yeah, and the Ravens, look, you've picked a great team to follow. The Ravens, very successful in the NFL. Were
Hundred
there any
percent.
other? You sort of mentioned Ray Lewis a little bit there, but were there any other sort of players that you've seen that kind of help inspire you to want to play the game? We talked about FA a little bit, FA Abada, obviously being down at the South London Renegades team, but were there any others that really inspired you to want to take the game up?
Definitely. When I started, someone like Deion Sanders, or like even prior to playing American football, I know I watched Tavon Austin's highlight tape. Like I seen it because I literally remember the soundtrack. And like when I started to get into American football properly, and then someone mentioned it to me, and I was like, I'm sure I've seen that before. And I think that one thing has stuck with me, definitely. And just watching his highlight tape, just his ability to cut up, and it's just, yeah, I just want it to be like that, definitely.
One of the all-time great YouTube videos, Tavon Austin, West Virginia highlight
Hmm.
compilation, is yeah, well watched one. I've seen that plenty of times myself as well. Yeah, it's a fantastic one and a great inspiration to have as well. Tavon, the great NFL career as well. You mentioned Deion Sanders. He obviously huge. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so Deion huge for
Hmm.
for any Cowboys fan. Is there parts are there parts of people like Dion that you try and take and add to your game? Tough with someone like Dion because he's obviously so unique and there is only
Yeah,
one prime time. But are there things you try and take from people's games to add to yours?
100%. It's something like maybe a small part of their game that I just like really I'm in tune to. Like for example, Deion Sanders, his confidence in himself, like just his little sayings like "you play good, they pay good," like just something like that. It's just something that you got to tell yourself every day, or when you step onto that field, that yeah, I'm that guy. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna play hard, uh, or just anyone. It's just being able to take parts of their game and implement it into your game, just in what inspires you.
Yeah, and what a great role model or inspiration to have in Dion. An incredible personality and incredible player as well. And is there anyone more now that you see in the games or see in the NFL now that again you try and model yourself on? Not model yourself might be strong because obviously you've got to be your own individual, but that you try and take from. Is there anybody sort of now that you've got like that comparison to see similarities in your games?
In terms of similarities in my games, I try not to look for similarities, but more for something for me to improve on. Because I feel like when I start to pick up on something like, oh, yeah, I'm just like that, there's no room for me to get better. Like I'm constantly trying to look for something to improve on rather than what I already have.
And we talked a lot about I suppose, the physical aspects of um, what's kind of available at the NFL Academy and um, what you've got at your disposal. How does that work on the mental side of things? So we talked a little bit about tape to watch and preparation. How's that other side of things work then in terms of balancing the mental side of things in terms of what's available there in Loughborough for you?
Yeah, we have a psychologist on deck, and she helps us so much. Like we constantly have sessions through the week, just about life, like how we can develop as not just athletes but as young men. Like not just does she do this for us, our coaches tell us this every day. It's like having another family up here that just give you life lessons, and just allow you to be great people, and you know.
Excellent, good stuff, and that's it's about the development of the all round person, not just the player, of course, which is cool. Look, if we sat down again, Enrique, in 12 months' time, what would your ideal year look like now in terms of your development over the next 12 months?
That's hard to say, but I would definitely say I've improved. I've gotten faster. My footwork's gotten better. I've gotten smarter. I'm able to read the game more. Um, all the hard work I've put in has allowed me to be in a better situation where I am now.
Good stuff. And we're looking forward to seeing that. Of course, we'll be tracking your development as you've been a guest. As you've been a guest on our show, we'll be tracking your development and pulling for you for sure. One last bit, we always like to try and talk when we've got guests on a little bit about their NFL team. Of course, you mentioned earlier you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. Of course, what are your hopes? It must be such a fun team to watch with Lamar and Derrick Henry, and what a great time to be a Ravens fan.
100%. Yeah, I love watching Lamar play. Like he's just he's so electric. He's able to run. He can throw. He's able to silence his doubters, and it's just something that team. It just brings this spark, and it's just exciting to watch, especially as a young boy. It was just nice to watch growing up.
Yeah, ridiculous at times. It's like he's just a video game, just in
Yeah, so
reality.
it's like something you see, yeah, in a video game or in the playground. Like the stuff he does, it's it stems away from being a professional football player.
Hey, sometimes it's good to just draw it up in the dirt and have that
Just have
element of
fun.
just have fun. And you see that when he's playing. He only ever looks happy when he's playing Lamar. That's it.
Yeah,
It's just the moment where he's locked in and just fully enjoys himself. But yeah, that spontaneity, I suppose, is great. Is great to have. They're real successful the last few years. Are regulars in the playoffs. Chiefs beat them in the AFC Championship game not long ago. Is this year? Can the Ravens get over the hump and sort of beat those teams, the Bills, the Chiefs, and get it done in 2025?
definitely. I feel like they was able to prove themselves this year, this season, but it's just about making that execution.
Yeah, and a big season ahead and an exciting one, not only for the Baltimore Ravens, but for yourself, more importantly, Enrique. Enrique, thanks very much for joining us. But where can we follow you? We know where to follow you, but for our listeners and viewers, where can we follow you and where can we kind of support you along your journey?
On Twitter, X, Enrique Aspinall. On Instagram, Enrique.asp. Anything, anything to support me.
Excellent, yeah, and we'll make sure we will make sure we do, and we'll be checking in with you along the way, Enrique, pulling for you, and yeah, and no doubt that you'll push on, have a great finish to your NFL academy time, and we want to see that post, Enrique. You signing with one of the teams in America, one of the D1 teams in America, and getting yourself out there. That would be fantastic. Enrique, thanks very much for joining us. Appreciate your time. Good luck the rest of the year, and good luck the rest of the way. And look, hopefully, as things move, hopefully you'd love to come back and kind of update us with how things have been going.
100%. Thank you so much.
Good stuff, Enrique.
Thanks to Enrique Aspinall for that interview with Paul. So the second half of this pod is just me and Byron just going through the latest news of the past week. It's not been as crazy as the tampering period as a couple of days, but there is one or two interesting moves, free agency trades, and more importantly, I think, is there's been some big contracts handed out. So yeah, we'll start there first, Byron. The Bengals, some might say a year too late, have signed Jamar Chase for $161 million for 4 years, 112. That's guaranteed, making him the highest non-quarterback. And on the same day, which is doesn't feel like it happens a lot, his partner in crime T. Higgins gets a contract for 4 years, $115 million. Yeah, what's your overall reaction to the Bengals actually doing something and signing their players?
I feel like better late than never is probably the best way to put it. Yes, should have been done a year ago and they would have saved probably a lot of money, truthfully, doing so. But they have done now. They have the best wide receiver pairing, I think, in the league, probably. Obviously, they're most highest paid. In the same reckoning of highest paid, you've got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. You'd take the Bengals over those two, I'm pretty sure I would. And then you've got AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. So I think they're a really good example of if you build well, it doesn't have to be a hindrance to you winning either. It's just the Bengals have kind of fallen short on that second part quite a lot in terms of the other team building. But I think if T. Higgins hit the open market, he'd be making more than he's making. And Jamar Chase is the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, as is ultimately fair to do. you didn't negotiate well last year, and then he goes and gets a triple crown. Well, the price isn't going down. But as I feel I've said 100 times in our last 3 shows, you've got to spend it on good players. Good players don't hit the open market. You've got to pay your own players, and the salary cap just keeps going up and up and up. It'll go up again next year. It'll go up again the year after. I would bet dollars to dimes on it. You'd prefer the Bengals build better around them, and I'm sure their draft will be heavily on defense and some O-line, but ultimately they've got the best wide receiver pairing in the league. They've got one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Bengals are going to be fun to watch again next year.
Yeah, I think it's like the new formula for these teams now. It's like, when you just mentioned like the Eagles, they're paying their 2 wide receivers plenty of money, but they managed to build around, obviously draft well. And then that's what the Bengals need to do to sort that defense out. They were never going to spend big, and they had to save some money this way. And the TV money is only going to go up with like Netflix getting involved now, Amazon, the international games. We might look here in 2 years' time thinking, Chase is only on 40 million a year. It's like it might be the 9th highest wide receiver. I think people get the pants in the twist a little bit with how much it is now. And see where they go. There's obviously been rumours of Hendrickson might be getting a contract this summer as well. I'm curious what he'll get, because I don't think he has the leverage as what the other 2 had in terms of arguably the best wide receiver between him and Justin Jefferson, and the best wide receiver 2, or as Jamar says 1A in the league. But they're keeping them all together for the next few years. Burrow's on that big contract. Can they just start the season well, play better on defense, and they're certainly going to be challenging with the rest of the teams in the AFC North. It's probably not too happy today. So following on from that, another big contract, which I know some people have said he's maybe come a year early, maybe 2 years early, with how much time he had left on his rookie contract. But Derek Stingley, the Texans, got a record contract for a defensive back, 3 years, $90 million. Yeah, this one's slightly. I think he had 2 years left. Obviously, they could use a 5th option on there. Yeah. But from my point of view, I think again it's only going to go up. It's only, you see teams who have not, you look at Sauce probably going to get more than that. And it's looking like get it in now before next year, where Sauce earning $35 million. And there was some big contracts last year for DBs where everyone was going crazy, and now it's not actually too bad. So what do you think of the Texans move? Now they've also signed Danielle Hunter for another year extension, so he'll get $55 million over the next few years. And they signed Cam Robinson today to fill the Tunsil trade on a 1-year deal. What do you think of what the Texans have done, and the contract for Stingley?
I feel like if you cover all 3 of those kind of as a one, it's like love, like hate. Love the Derek Stingley extension, like you say, that's going to look cheap in 2 years' time. He's a elite level corner already. He's better than Sauce Gardner, I think, through his first 3 years in the league. But if the Jets don't pay Sauce Gardner this year, there's a good chance if they play around a similar level next year that Sauce Gardner will be getting outpaid compared to him. But there's pros and cons for both sides there. Obviously, he gets his money earlier, locked up, and I think the Texans get a bargain when we look ahead 2, 3, 4 years. Dan Hunter, extend him another year. Seems like a no-brainer. I'm sure there's cap implications to balance it out a little, give him more spending room. Cam Robinson, not as confident. I don't want to say he was terrible once he went to the Vikings, but I think he had the highest pressure rate for any tackle on one-on-ones once he went to Minnesota. I don't think you'd want him as your set left tackle. I was surprised the Patriots didn't make a move after Ronnie Stanley re-signed, but the fact that they didn't make a move might be telling that, he's not really a starting left tackle, which I think is probably about right. But the Texans do need somebody. They've overhauled their offensive line in a really weird way, I think, this offseason. Going to be relying on coaching and scheme, which obviously they felt they didn't have with the previous OC. So big challenge for their offensive coordinator coming in there, because I think they've took out pieces that maybe were underwhelming or underperforming, but I don't think they've really replaced them with anything that you'd feel good about going forward. So big draft to come for the Texans. I think that's going to be heavy O-line. I certainly hope so for CJ Stroud's sake.
Yeah, I think they're a very vibes kind of team where they want players to fit that vibe, to fit that environment. They're not a team that just wants hype. Well, it feels like that's the mentality that was probably suited for young, hungry players wanting to make something in this league. And just getting Cam Robinson as the insurance 1 year, it's not like Tunsil where you're going to have to probably pay him again, looking for that another big contract, and you get what you can from him now with that second round pick, and certainly look into there. And yeah, what I would say about that Stingley contract, again, it's all this like reporting and how the guarantees. I think this year he's only still getting 10 million, so his 3 years added on to these current years.
Yeah.
So it's how they like work it and make it sound like he's getting 3 years from now. But I think it's after this year and they're able to spread it out over the next 4 years. It's always funny, like you see the Darnold contract where it's really like a 1 year contract after everyone was going crazy how much money he's got. And talking to the Seahawks, they added another weapon for Darnold, which they desperately needed. So pairing with JSN and MVS, all the acronyms, it's Cooper Kupp. Signing with the Seahawks, 3 year, 45 million. Again, another contract. I'm not quite sure what the guarantees look like, and I can't imagine it being very high guarantees, especially his injury front. So, how do you think? Do you think it was a good move for Kupp and for the Seahawks, or are you a bit, not so sure?
I hate saying it, I'm not really sure, truthfully. Kupp's going to be 32 this summer. He had his incredible Triple Crown season. He's had another really good year, but he's so banged up, and now it feels like. I kind of think as well, once. The team who drafted you, who love you, who've been loyal to you and paid you well all this time, basically they do end up cutting you because you couldn't find a trade partner. I think that's pretty indicative of where you're viewed in the league. Obviously, the Rams did end up getting Devontae Adams, who I think is an upgrade on Cooper Kupp, but whether Devontae Adams was coming in or not, Cooper Kupp was not on the Rams in 2025. So, I kind of worry that he's just done. But I agree. I think it's probably it's his 3 years, 45 million. I doubt it's 3 years, 45 million. It's probably 1 year, 15 to 18 million. In reality, there's some slight concern for me as well about the JSN does his best work in the slot. Cooper Kupp does his best work in the slot. I presume they ain't sending Cooper Kupp deep. Like, surely that just doesn't make any sense to me. Obviously, MVS is your deep threat, but I think in your intermediate to deeper routes, you just have to have JSN do it if Cooper Kupp's got to be on the field. I imagine there's going to be a lot of 2 tight end, 1 running back, 2 wide receiver sets as well. So that's when Cooper will be your main slot guy and JSN will be your get deeper, intermediate kind of guy. I kind of hate. Obviously, they were one of my losers last week, I presume, or one of our 3 losers, the Seahawks. Yes, they've got younger at quarterback, but I don't really see what difference that makes when Darnold's on essentially a 1 year deal that they can get out of after a year, certainly. If it's only a 1 year deal, doesn't matter if he's 27 or 37, really. I don't think too much. Kupp from DK Metcalf, I think, is a huge downgrade based on what we've seen certainly the last year. Demarcus Robinson was getting more targets than Cooper Kupp down the stretch. The Rams were desperate to get rid of it, ended up cutting him. That's how desperate they were to get rid of him. I don't really know what they're doing in Seattle, I must say. I'm sure John Schneider has a vision, and truthfully, I think John Schneider really needs to have a vision because they haven't drafted well for a few years, and the O-line is still the same basic pieces that it was to end last year when it was a disaster. Until we see otherwise, or until I see otherwise, I'll certainly be a huge concern of Sam Darnold in a non-ideal situation. I don't think this is an ideal situation by any means. I just think there's a lot of work to do, and I don't think Cooper Kupp, I say, turns 32 before the start of the season. I don't think he's going to be a needle mover for them.
Yeah, I'd be worried if he was like their true number 2. Like, as a number 3, it's got that upside that if it works out, then they've got a really intelligent player who it feels like an offense which is going to be, get out of the hands of Sam Darnold quickly. So can he beat someone off the line? And that's what what he was known for. Can he still do that? That's the big question. There'll be one of them where I can imagine them drafting in the mid rounds, trying to get a wide receiver. I can see them going interior offensive line, hopefully in the first round to shore up that the offensive line. But and apparently it's fairly deep, this draft class. So they don't spend big on the O-line, so they're going to have to draft well, pick the right people, and then hopefully hit 1 or 2 wide receivers. I'll not be surprised if they bring someone else in, maybe on a cheap deal, just to shore up that wide receiver route. But it feels like a team which is going to lean heavily on defense, which is which ended strongly last year, and just with the moves they've done and how it's looking, that could be their main focus, keep scores low to help Sam Darnold out. So we'll move on to the reigning Super Bowl champions. Just a few news coming out of Philadelphia. So Lane Johnson re-signed again on a 1-year extension, getting an additional $30 million guaranteed. His long-time partner, teammate, who was there the previous Super Bowl win, Brandon Graham, retired in the last few days, and they also signed a few players from the Giants. A linebacker, and a cornerback as well. Can't remember who that was, but yes, they've just done the move. So, yeah, any thoughts on keeping Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham retiring? Do you think it's going to affect the Eagles with the San Uche, which I think they want to try and replace Brandon Graham, but they've lost a few players on that line.
Yeah, I mean, shout out Brandon Graham instantly. I think Eagles legend, probably not a Hall of Famer, but an NFC East player who wins 2 Super Bowls. I mean, if it's good enough for Eli Manning, good enough for Brandon Graham maybe, but probably not because he's not a quarterback. No, I thought his retirement press conference was really nice, very emotional, and I like talked about overcoming adversity. Obviously, he came back for the Super Bowl after tearing his bicep. Not an easy thing to do, I dare guess. And it's nice to see players go out on top, even if they are Eagles. But a lot of respect for that. Lane Johnson, I was thinking about this morning. Like, when do you ever see the Eagles players disgruntled? Like, it's just another, it's like Harry Roseman does it again. But, what's the downside to them paying Lane Johnson more money? Nothing really. They're not going to struggle to be compared because they paid Lane Johnson a bit of extra money. He's happier. His deal was great at the time. But as we were saying, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, in 2-3 years, it's going to look worse. So the Eagles just re-up him and give him more money. They can afford to do it. They're willing to do it. They're not waiting for there to be a sulk or a upset player. And, we talk about it a lot, but the Eagles just do it the right way. If you're a veteran who's thinking about going to Philadelphia, these kind of moves, again, just appeal to you. You might take a little less money in the short term because they're going to look after you if you perform. Yeah, I don't see any downside to doing it. There's no real way that they end up getting banged by it unless Lane Johnson falls off a cliff, but again, seems very, very unlikely to do so. And you mentioned, I know he's not part of that Giants pairing, but I kind of love that Josh Uche sign-in. It's so low cost, and he's flashed before. Obviously, he's not going to replace Brandon Graham by himself, but you're not getting a flavour in this free agency class it is. And I think he's getting $2 million over a year, and I think they've even added void years, so it's not even taking up that full amount of salary cap in year one. Those are the kind of deals I think that they're like Mekhi Becton last year, take someone else's trash and turn it into treasure elsewhere. Becton will probably get a 4th-round compensatory pick for next year, or this year. I think it's a year ahead, but it's just the Eagles churn, and Uche, I didn't know how much he'd get in free agency. I knew it wasn't going to be a big contract because he's been, he has fallen off, but those kind of hits that the Eagles are willing to do and not put pressure on that player to become an instant contributor, again, it's just more and more reasons why they win, and at such low cost and no risk to it.
Yeah, I think they're the perfect team for the 1 year if you're on either line, or just to have a good year, make an impact, and then suddenly get him off. Yeah, which is a weird one where I think he turned down quite big guarantees to go back to the Patriots and hardly played. Then moved to the Chiefs, and I think everyone thought, he's going to be a situational for the Chiefs, and that never worked. So I think he's definitely he's not going to be, a start for the Eagles, or I could just see him in the playoffs somehow getting 2.5 sacks, playing half the snaps in a big playoff game, and that gets him paid the year after. So we'll move on to just mentioned my team, the 49ers. Finally, some good news. Juice, Kyle Juszczyk, is gone back to the 49ers. Yeah. It looks like he looked around and he wasn't quite getting what he wanted, or the same contract. It was the 49ers. The 49ers did actually have to beat someone out, it sounds like, and paid him a little bit more than they wanted, but he's still less than his previous contract. So Kyle Juice is back, which George Kittle and everyone is happy about. And talking about running backs, and at the 49ers, they traded away Jordan Mason to the Vikings. So Vikings get Mason in a 2025 6th for a 2025 5th this year and a 2026 6th next year. So I know we mentioned this in group. Any comments on Juice or Mason going as the backup for Aaron Jones at the Vikings?
It was firstly delighted to see Juszczyk back in San Francisco. It's just right, isn't it? He fits there. He belongs there. He had to take the pay cut eventually, but he got to look at the market and decide it wasn't for him and stay in California. And Mrs. Juszczyk doesn't need to start rebranding all her clothing line as well, which is good. I'm sure there's been some heavy stitching involved there, getting 49ers logos on. Don't want to get it off. That's just nice. And Jordan Mason, I really like Jordan Mason. But, I think, I don't know if I have this salary number up in front of me for what he signed with the Vikings now, but it's above far what he was going to get as a RFA. So it makes sense. The Niners, they're not in cap hell, but it's a bit of a reload year, as we've seen, especially on defense. If you can have Isaiah Guerrero making a fraction of that amount to be the RB2 behind CMC, and hopefully, you didn't want to see as much of Guerrero or Jordan Mason last year as we ended up seeing. If CMC isn't fit to go, I don't think the 49ers are functioning as they can do with Mason or Guerrero, truthfully. I like Mason as a runner. I think he'll be a really good running number 2 in Minnesota. I think, again, we've got these running backs who end up in Kyle Shanahan schemes or McVay schemes or Kevin O'Connell schemes as it is now, you just hit the jackpot. Because he just schemes you open. And I think especially Minnesota this year, they've boosted the bodies on the line. I'll be interested to see how JJ McCarthy looks. And I think everyone's one of the biggest stories, I think, going into next season. But they're a team who's built to win. O'Connell loves running the ball. I think it's a great fit for Mason. I think this is one of them where it's kind of a win-win-win, though. Like, the Niners needed to gain cap space, and they've moved up in the draft, which Niners have got, I think, 12 picks this year. Any of those that you can move, a player who's probably not going to be a contributor at the wages that he's getting. I think they moved to like 20 or 30 spots, maybe, give or take. That's a win to me. I think the Vikings get a really good running back too, who's really physical, which, last year they had Ty Chandler and Cam Akers backing up Aaron Jones. And even Aaron Jones in himself, I think he struggles doing the 17-game workload as a physical runner, especially as he gets older. I think Mason's a perfect foil, and Mason gets paid, and he gets to go to a team that I think might end up featuring him more than people might expect. I think he's we'll get into our fantasy takes much later in the off-season, but I think he's a sneaky, maybe the best handcuff in football off the top of my head.
Yeah, funnily enough, I was actually going to say the same thing. I think he's a nice little pickup near the end if he's still available. Sit him on your bench, and Aaron Jones is not, like you said, he does drop a bit in the second half of the season, and they might play a bit smarter this year. But yeah, I think it's a win-win. I think the 49ers, they always get running backs. You look at all the running backs have let go. All of them seem to get injured as well. But it's like throughout the years, Mostert,
Elijah Mitchell,
like all of them, they just get these running backs which are not, high regarded, and they turn them into something. And they always draft one every single year. So why not just draft someone to play to replace Jordan Mason? And like you said, if CMC's fit, he's going to play most of the snaps anyway. And when you look at like the actual yards per carry, Guerrero was quite a bit further than Jordan Mason. Yeah. Obviously they're slightly different, but I think they're happy with how Guerrero. He was probably going to be the second in line anyway. So why not, like I said, move up and then get another pick next year for someone who you may have only kept this year and moved on. And just to round up the Vikings, so they also signed Jeff Okudah, a former first-round pick. And story which come out today, there was rumours about Rodgers really wanted to go to the Vikings, finishing off the copy of Favre's career. But it seems like the Vikings don't want to do that anymore. So there was like some rumours, Rodgers was pushing it, the Vikings were thinking about it, and today's come out saying it's definitely going to be JJ McCarthy. They're probably going to get a backup elsewhere, someone who's happy to sit behind. I don't think Rodgers would have been. Yeah, Rodgers. Are you surprised that this is going to go on and on and on? I can see this happening until after the draft, that he wants to see where everyone ends up. And there's Cam Hayward coming out today saying if you want to be a Steeler, stop messing around, be a Steeler. If not, we don't want you.
Ultimately, he doesn't want to be a Steeler.
Yeah.
If he wanted to be a Steeler, he'd be in Pittsburgh already. Like, that's the long and the short of it. This is just classic Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. I don't think the Vikings have had any intention of bringing Aaron Rodgers into the building from, I said day one, but as soon as this became a story, I I posted on my Blue Sky last week. It was literally 7 days ago. I quote tweeted it today. I think there's as much chance as Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers from the old TV show in the neighbourhood, being the Vikings' backup as there is Aaron Rodgers signing for the Vikings. I do not see it. Everything they've done around JJ McCarthy since they drafted him tells me they think he is the future. Sam Darnold was one thing. Sam Darnold was on a cheap deal. Sam Darnold is amenable. Sam Darnold isn't on Pat McAfee every week telling all your franchise's secrets and throwing teammates, coaches, ownership, whoever else he fancies under the bus every week. Rodgers isn't worth the trouble. I said on our, I can't remember which pod it was, but a few weeks ago, I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers retires. I don't know if there's a job for him. Last week, when we done our 2 weeks ago on our free agent predictions, I had him as either Tennessee Titans or retiring. Because again, I just don't see. I think Mike Tomlin would get soon fed up with him, and I don't think the play's worth it, right? And I think ultimately teams agree with me, because if teams viewed Aaron Rodgers as a starting high-level Aaron Rodgers level quarterback, he'd be signed somewhere on $30-40 million a year for 1 year. But he isn't, and he's not worth the trouble. The Minnesota thing never made sense to me. I think Minnesota are waiting for I forget exactly when it is. It might be even after the draft. But I think they're waiting for the compensatory calculator thing to end so they can bank the Sam Darnold pick, bank the Cam Robinson pick now as well, and not do anything that impacts that. I think they'll sign a Jameis. I think Jameis is a reasonable one. Joe Flacco maybe. Drew Lock maybe. Carson Wentz maybe. I mean, none of these guys, I think, would give you as many wins as Aaron Rodgers probably does, but I don't think. Ultimately, they're not coming to start either, and I think Rodgers, it's always going to be a story. It's even a story when he's not doing anything like right now. I don't think NFL teams want the fuss. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires. I kind of expect him to retire on draft night, is my.
Just to get the news.
Yeah, it's all he has. He doesn't have his family. He has his darkness retreat and he has vanity.
Yeah, I'll be curious as well. Even some of the teams we're interested, obviously Steelers and Giants are the ones linked. It's obviously holding up Russell Wilson where he ends up as well.
Yep.
But it's like a team I can imagine him. Obviously, doesn't want the Steelers his number one pick, but I can at least see it. I just can't imagine him just looking at that Giants and thinking, "I've got 1 year. It's going to be another struggle." So I am curious if he will retire. And another quarterback, which was in the news, Kirk Cousins got his bonus, which I wasn't surprised at. I don't think it really affects his trade value. I think he just, the Falcons are not going to get much from him anyway. It might just help a little bit instead of getting a 6th or 5th. He might be able to bump up around just because he said, "I've already paid," because they're going to have to pay for him whoever he goes to. So I don't think it's a huge. And I think that's the kind of one what's going to happen either on draft night or the couple of days after, because I can imagine Kirk Cousins also not want to be in a situation where gets traded and then they and then
he's not getting penalized again.
Yeah, or JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, exactly. He's not. I mean, it wouldn't actually surprise me if he ends up at the Vikings, truthfully, but it'll be on his terms. Like, he's decided to go to the Vikings after the draft. He'll be there as a number 2. Yeah. And I'm sure he's got ties to Minnesota, but it's ultimately if everyone. Sure. Well, I think it's only if every other seat is filled.
Yeah.
I think he'd rather be a backup in Minnesota than a backup in Atlanta.
Yeah. And I think it depends. Yeah, I'd be curious if what teams think as well. That's why it's weird with this Russell Wilson and what for me, if I was the Giants, I think I would rather have Cousins than Wilson. I think Cousins could a bit more upside. Obviously injury affected him last year as he come back stronger. And fewer teams like that, but then you've obviously got to give up draft picks and also the contract as well. Obviously, like I said, they'll not take a huge contract. The Falcons just have to take all that. But like you said, I'll be curious to see where else there is with some of these moves and how the draft goes. I think it all depends, with Sanders, who is someone going to gamble on that. So someone like the Browns, could they just take a flyer on Cousins for a year so at least they have a capable quarterback and not relying on the backups and Kenny Pickett. So I can see that happening, and I don't think it affects too much. I think everyone went a bit crazy, he's definitely staying in the Falcons. I don't think that's the case. I think it's still up in there. And at the end of the day, if he stays there, then he's a good backup for the Falcons if anything happens with Penix. But I think he still wants and he still sees himself as a starter It's just the league sees that too.
And I totally agree. I think Cleveland is probably the most logical fit. If they don't go, either trade to number 1 and take Cam Ward or takes Shedeur Sanders, I think Cousins makes the ultimate sense there. It seems like a good scheme fits for Stefanski as long as his Achilles healed up and he can do his, bootlegs. Then I think that's the best fit for him as well. Yeah, especially on a 1 year.
Yeah, no, I don't think, and now it'll not take much just because how last year went. Like I said, maybe 5th at the most. I think they'll be lucky to get that. Cool. I'll just run through the other free agency which has made the news. Obviously, we're not going to touch on everything, but a few which I've noted down. So, a few backup quarterbacks have been signed. Cooper Rush to the Ravens, Gardner Minshew to the Chiefs, and Tyler Heineke to the Chargers. The Chargers also got Becton to change that offensive line. Thornhill went to the Steelers. Juju's back at the Chiefs. Hardeman's gone to the Packers. The Patriots have made a few changes. They released Andrews, long-time captain there, but he sounds like he's going to retire, and they replace him with Bradbury, who was released from the Vikings. The Cowboys have done some strange moves, getting all the first-rounders who have flamed out. So they got Dante Fowler to add to that with a few of the trades, and they got Miles Sanders to replace Dowdle, who's gone to the Panthers. So basically a swap for similar money, which is a strange one. Artie Burns has gone to the Dolphins. Jordan Fuller's gone to the Falcons. And CJ Mosley, who was a big-time free agent a few weeks ago, has been released on the Jets. And finally, a weird story coming out of the Bills. 2 of their players have been suspended for 6 games. With Hoyt, they knew about, but he actually got a decent contract still. And Larry Ogunjobi has also been suspended for 6 games, which they said, well, he told us between the terms and signing. But I'm guessing the Bills are seeing the long term, get them in for 12, hopefully 16 games. I guess the Super Bowl in that way. Any comments on any of them? Obviously, another few Cowboys, a few ex-Cowboys, and a few backups. Is there anything which took you by surprise or you like?
Not hugely, I will say, but it's sad to see Cooper Rush finally leave the Cowboys. I've always liked him as a backup and a fill-in. I think the Dallas backup is now Will Greer, who really shouldn't be in the league. So,
is he not Trey Lance?
Trey Lance free agent, I believe.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I believe this was his. I don't think anyone picked. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so I'm pretty sure that's Trey Lance is a free agent. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe he's a free agent. So, apparently Washington have signed him.
Oh,
I just googled his name and it says Washington have signed Trey Lance. So I'm not sure if that's confirmed. I'm trying to see what the source is here. His Wikipedia still has him as a free agent, so maybe Washington just took a look at him. I'm not too sure. But yeah, Trey Lance is still a backup. What a fall from grace. But yeah, I think the Ravens done good business there, getting Cooper Rush as a backup. He's shown he's competent. Ideally, you never see him because you've got the MVP. Well, he didn't win MVP, but he won the OPOY and 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson. So yeah, nothing much to write on about there. I think we'll call Hardman to Green Bay. I don't think he's gone as a wide receiver. I think he's as a returner. Keyshawn Nixon there, cornerback, said he wanted to stop returning kicks and focus more on his DB work, so I think that's just to kind of fill in there. I don't think he'll be, well, certainly hope for Green Bay's not on offense too much because, yeah, not wide receiver 1, certainly.
Yeah, I think the one I'm curious about is how Becton fits into that Chargers team, that offensive line. Last year, I think we were always praising it, saying this O-line with high draft picks, obviously going high. Last year getting the best tackle. We thought, well, they've got a set of tackles, decent centers, they're going to go flying. This is like run heavy, but it didn't seem to quite put it all together. So I do worry, like in coaching sense, and having Becton come in, who obviously failed as a tackle at the Jets, but certainly played a hell of a lot better for the Eagles at guard. He's got decent money. Is that just one of them? He's done well at the Eagles. He's got paid probably higher than he would have, and he's going to flame out elsewhere. He's certainly good in the run game, which they need because that run game was atrocious last year, and it will certainly help. The team who we thought it was going to be, where with a typical Jim Harbaugh game where it run heavy, but it didn't actually work out that way. So I'm curious how that worked out. And I know we talk about the Cowboys quite a lot. No idea why they're going Miles Sanders and John too.
It's
like
wild.
at least Dowdo gave you something, and he feel like he got stronger as the year went on, and the contracts weren't that different with how much they were paying Javante. So it's
Miles
it's a
Sanders hasn't
weird
been
one.
good in years either.
Yeah, I'm not
Like-
quite sure where they're going with that. It's like it just doesn't make sense in terms of team building. Like why do you keep you keep your some guys, but and we'll see what happens. But the Dante Fowler one that I think got 10.5 sacks last year, like
Yeah.
8.5 for the Commanders. They need someone obviously to replace the Marcus Lawrence who had a little Twitter spat with or X spat with
Micah Parsons.
with Micah Parsons, which is funny, which is just like, is that actually what's happening in the locker room? How the rest of because it felt like Lawrence was one of them guys where he was respected. He had that. Is other people thinking about that about Mike Parsons, who, I think he's the last high-end player in the 21 draft who's not being paid yet. Go Cowboys.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. I think that's about it. Obviously, there's been other signings. We might touch on them when we do the each division roundup, where we talk specifically about teams, about what they've gained and what they've lost. So we'll catch them. So we do apologise if you sat here waiting for a random, backup cornerback for your team, which we haven't touched upon. But we might get to it eventually. As always, follow us on all the social medias: Instagram, X, YouTube, Blue Sky, TikTok, GTW_GTC, and you'll find us everywhere, hopefully on most podcasts apps. Good teams win, great teams cover. Cheers for joining us, Byron. Next week we're doing a special draft where we're going to redraft the 2024 draft and see where we're picking some interesting choices. We might be joined by a guest, and we'll see if that happens. But there'll definitely be 3 of us, and you can scream and shout and tell us how wrong we are with drafting players way higher than they actually were. Join us next week, and have a great rest of your week.
Cheers.